I think what's often left out is that you can't do nothing without community.
That's right.
So the first thing that was done was that we had to build an inside community, an inside presence. That meant we had to take the program, African Heritage Coalition, at the time, and really teach men what that program was designed to do, right? Orientate them, bring them all under that umbrella, and then start educating them in a way that they could understand and see themselves as well as understand themselves, and then the purpose in which we were setting down. I think most of the time when we look at the end result of those video projects and all of those things, you don't understand what was moving men to do those things, right? So we moved these men and built brothers' intelligence and educate brothers so that they understood themselves and wanted to participate. Now, I think there were some discussions about maybe even selecting a few at one time, but we decided to opt to do the community. And that's how we started that process, right? As a result of them seeing us build that community, and then Diamond bringing this, Darrell Jones is also known as Darrell Jones, bringing this idea of the video project, which came out of the meeting, the idea of the video project, and then marrying these two things together, really, in the sense, gave the administration, who wasn't a part of that, a sense, an era of power, of black power that they perceived, right? That they did not want in the institution. Also, the union at that time thought that the administration was coddling the prisoners. They had no idea that this was being forced on the institution itself, right? And that came from the work of the joint work of Darren Howell, Chuck Turner, and all the outside community folks who were the really movers and shakers on the outside and supporting our movement from the outside and the inside piece, right? So as those things came together, it led to a culture class, because you was dealing with men who have been experienced with violence, through all their lives, so they weren't easy movable. You couldn't just intimidate them and shake them like you would the average person. And so it made up for what they perceived to be a deadly recipe. They couldn't stop us because what we was doing was legitimate. And so they tried to malign us. And when that didn't work, they tried to create narratives in and around us, right? And one of which led to Darrell actually being moved off the camp and sent to Norfolk. And that narrative was, and some of you may know that the publicized with Gloria Fox, when she came into the prison to actually investigate what was happening, because they locked Darrell Jones up and they locked myself up on AAPI and that's an investigation by the administration, because over 90 men showed up inside of the prison and to the chow hall. And for you to imagine the makeup of the prison, when they called movement, they created a special movement just for the AAC. And when they called that, all these men came out of those units like a sea of men, and was like a march of men coming all the way from one end to the prison all the way up. And the one thing they didn't like was that Darrell was he was so articulate in the way that he was able to deliver his message, but unapologetic about it, right? Regardless of who was there. And so that created this air of, we have to do something. And so what they did was they closed down the program. They closed the program down. They put us on AAPI. They started saying that we was conspiring to do all kinds of stuff, which was never true. And then that resulted in the governor actually coming down based on the invitation of Minister Don and Pastor Dickerson. They already had shipped Darrell out because they accused him accused former state rep Gloria Fox of actually smuggling his girlfriend in, right, to a visit, which wasn't true. right?
Wasn't true.
It wasn't true at all. And then accused her of having sex on a visit with him, right? Which also was not true, right? But this was publicized in the paper to try to scare, community supporters off from even dealing with men behind the wall. So they promoted this at large, and to frighten other community members, and they frightened Gloria Fox also. You know what I'm saying? I'm just gonna be candid and real. They frightened her because she didn't have in her the ability to really understand what was happening, and we needed to fight that fight together. Terrell and his former wife at that time did fight that fight, litigated it, and it came to bear, and that they were successful in that litigation, which showed that they were lying about the whole entire thing. None of that happened.
Wow, thank you. Now imagine that. What's that? Who's that? Oh, we'll come to you in a minute, D. So imagine that here these brothers are doing great work. They're not being told to do this by the DOC. They're taking initiative. They're reaching out to their community, the black community, and they're holding the black leaders accountable to work with them to change the violence in the community. And they get this backlash where you get humiliated, where your wife is smeared all over the newspapers, where your elected officials are charged and you are put in a box. You are deprived of visits and your freedom while you're in jail for doing the right thing. I want to move because time is of the essence. In December the 24th, 2010, there was a riot, there was a fight that broke out in Norfolk. Young brothers came on the camp, and the culture was different because in Norfolk, that's the medium prison. That's one of the prisons that has the most programs. Brothers been around, they got the inmate council. So usually there's not a lot of ruckus, but a group of youngsters had just got on the camp, and it resulted in a big fight. This brother Supreme, following that, I witnessed it with my own eyes. He went to every group in Norfolk, from the Nation of Islam to the Catholics to the Sunnis to Young Fathers, Second Thoughts, to all of the programs. He got all of the leaders of all the programs together to organize so that they can change the culture of what was going on in Norfolk. And I seen how from that initial group of meetings, it eventually evolved to the Restorative Justice Project in Norfolk. That they held major special events where the DA would come, the elected officials would come, state reps would come. I seen the Boston, the police commissioner came to restorative justice. That's where I met, someone like Janice Connor, who is the mother of someone that was murdered. I met Tina Cherry. I met Azada Mendez. These were mothers who had lost children to violence, but because of the work that brothers behind the wall were doing, particularly around this restorative justice, they began to come up and participate in restorative justice. That became a big, big program. While this was happening and the brother was doing it for several years, he went up for parole and he got gunned down. And I'm saying to myself, how is it? And I think that might have been the second time or maybe the third time he got gunned down. That was the third time he had gotten gunned down. Now he's creating a program, bringing in the district attorney, bringing in judges, bringing in police commissioners, state reps, bringing in mothers, and this is a beautiful program. They still running it. And he goes up for parole and they deny him on the third time. And I got in trouble behind that because we had a restorative justice event and I spoke about it. And I said, this brother deserves to get parole. I got written up as an employee for advocating that he should get his parole. But following that, creating that, I want you to speak about that and what was that like? What kind of support you got from the DOC? What kind of pushback? and what ended up happening to you as a result of that revolutionary work. Grab the mic.
Thank you, Brother Minister. Brother Minister always encouraged me, he said, we got to tell a history. Everything is in time. It wasn't time then. It's time now. In the spirit of history, it was spoken earlier of the wonderful work that the AACC is doing. There's a lineage of work that goes back. And what's important to me is that we always connect the dots.
That's right.
Because if we don't honor ourselves, who will? I know that I am because we are. Had there not been for a Denny Zulu, a Mark Thomas, a Jerry Funderburg, I just wouldn't accept anybody or anything as my leader while I was in there. Because I'm hardwired for leadership. I'm hardwired to lead as a servant. That means sometimes it requires me to serve other people, the business, who are on their post sleeping at the wheel on behalf of our people. I cannot say that I am all these things without not being all these things. I was told when you take on a righteous name, live up to that righteous name. So I strive to be the best. But I know my name is Supreme Hassan. The Hassan part most people don't know. It stands for He, Allah, the self, Savior, and nation. I am nobody without us. So when I think about that history, I see Brother Abu, who I met 3 weeks ago, as a young organizer in the AHC. But there's a lineage to the AHC that we try like hell to write, but our brothers are returning back to the essence. And it pains us because when we write it, we got to get it right. It has to be checked, cross-checked, referenced. So there was the band too that started in Walpole. When there was only 44 black men in Walpole, 17 or 18 Latinos, and a handful of Asians, with the rest were Caucasians. And they had to organize, and the principal organizing mechanism, as they told me the history, was the Nation of Islam. Then there was the Black Rights Committee. The Black Rights Committee morphed into the African Heritage Group, which morphed into the African American Heritage Coalition. See, this is history that our community does not know. I don't think it was time for y'all to know then, or that iteration of our community at that time. But there are those amongst us who do know. Brother Abu. So when I think about that, I also think about the Honorable Gloria Fox, who was a black woman. And this is special to me for so many reasons. One of the first meetings I went into was with a high-powered philanthropist organization. I won't name them, but it was all original women who were at the table. So I sat there and I reflected on everything that I was taught. My messenger, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said that 75% of the work that it's going to take, the woman will do 75% of the work to transform the globe. 25% is on us. 25% means that we have to use our thinking, speaking, and being to galvanize our collective energy as a force and power to stand in front of them and alongside of them and behind them when we need to. So this history is very, very important and very, very real. Historically, December 24th, 2010, there was a gang riot. And what saddened me at that moment is that I had a relationship with all the combatants. And every one of them I had an intimate relationship with. I don't do personal well in prison because you don't know who everyone is. It's like I didn't know who I was. So I learned these brothers' aspirations. I learned their goals. I learned their dreams, but also understood that they needed a safe container to be able to express that. But more importantly, they needed to know that older black men cared about them, to listen and then follow through. So we spent years, months, and days listening. And then when I learned of restorative justice, I really have to give credit to my father, Allah. Then I have to give credit to Minister Farrakhan for calling the Million Man March and then the Day of Atonement. Because when he laid out those 8 steps of atonement, I recognized them as my supreme mathematics. And I understood that my supreme mathematics was intended to become my living mathematics. So I could no longer espouse the theory of supreme mathematics. I had to live it out.
Yes, sir.
So when he talked about identifying the harm, accept the responsibility of it, damn, when I realized that I had to respond with my ability. My ability is to organize. My ability is to influence. My ability is to utilize these relationships to build bridges of transport. That is what we did. That is what was done. I say we because I don't like separating myself from my people. But there's an I statement inherent in that. And I don't understand the importance of telling the history. So my history, our history, does not become anybody else's history. Will a man rob God? Absolutely. And the man is robbing God each and every day in each and every way that we allow it. So today I use I statements and I stand on mine because it's important. If our children are to have examples, then they need to know who these examples are. Then we need to connect them with these examples. I can sit next to M today and scientific, and I know, okay, we need policy and we need culture. So we'll tag M on culture. So when M says, Supreme, I need you, it's not even a question. When scientific say, Supreme, I need you, it's not even a question. I'm a servant leader. This movement is needs-based. Restorative justice recognizes the harms. Somebody caused that harm. So somebody is ultimately responsible to repair that harm. That is an obligation. We say in our culture that we have a duty to make our community better than it was when we came to it. This is all the things that I recognize because I had great teachers before me. So that history is very, very important. But each and every one of them teachers told us that we was duty bound to be better than them because we have units of their lived experience to build upon. So I wanted to give really credit to that and also the minister. I'm currently organizing a multi-day conference that will elevate the voices of the experts as responsible parties and those who've been harmed by the actions I caused. I'm gonna use an I statement on this. Action that I caused. Restorative justice theory says that those voices are supposed to be the most elevated voices in the movement. They're not. The movement has been hijacked by the academy. The movement has been hijacked by white women in particular.
That's right.
We're not saying
Be a witness.
we don't want you there. We're saying that we're demanding that you recognize our expertise in these spaces. Because our history is born of pounds of lived experience. What is the total weight of the planet Earth? 6 hectillion tons. A unit followed by 21 ciphers of zeros. Can you imagine lifting in such a weight?
Yes,
Each of us had to do it initially by ourselves until the magnetism of our work called each other into each other's work. Our community wasn't doing that. And I looked at the mayoral election when Mayor Walsh first was like, damn, how is our community split on one side? Religious leaders and politicians. Then I wanted to be hopeful and say, they got a plan. They'll deliver their agenda to both. And whoever wins, we win. That wasn't the case. The proof is in the pudding because we're back at it again. So we're not going to be that anymore.
Come on.
Y'all, our teachers, y'all taught us a hell of a lesson. Our pain has purpose. So with this, the most important is December 24th, 2010, Working While Black. 10 years of building a community of care inside and outside the walls of incarceration, magnetizing the likes of even the Honorable Governor W.O.R.D. to come in and figure out what's going on. So we know what to do. We know how to do it. So we're not waiting for anybody to tell us when to do it. I know I'm not. And I don't believe these brothers are. Because these brothers have been mentors and counselors as peers. Supreme, I don't like the fact that brothers are running into these positions and they're being paid for their expertise. Excuse me, they're begging for jobs for their expertise. Well, a man robbed God, not on my watch. It cannot happen, not nowadays. Because we have to heal our community and then we have to build wealth. So as we're building wealth, we're also building the institutions now that we can say to our babies, look at these examples. Look at these examples. What do you want to be? Here's scholarships to be that. And when you graduate, here's jobs waiting you. I'm going to give all within my power to see that day. The most important history that I want to talk about took place on March 26, 2020. And it was a full circle because the Restorative Justice Initiative happened because of that riot. So it's truly a transformative initiative to prevent violence and intervene on violence. But they were not going to let a black man named Supreme who called himself God or a 5%er say, I want a program inside of the National Department of Correction that would help us stop violence. That wasn't happening.
Right.
So I had to be swift and changeable, find a mode of transportation. That mode of transportation just happened to be the one we needed. So, full circle moment. March 26, 2020 in Shirley. I was moved, 13th Constitution, remember the brother said it, I was a slave. I was moved like a slave abruptly October 17th, 2017, October 27, 2017, after 9, almost 10 years of building a community that introduced restorative justice into the National Department of Correction and pushed it throughout the Department of Community Corrections out into the community in the form of the Transformational Prison Project. That was all part of our plan. That was all part of our plan. They planned, we planned, but the best of planners is Allah.
Yes, sir.
Right? So, they did not want to let me out of prison because I worked while black. Worked while black uncompromisingly. Worked while black with integrity. Worked while black within the framework of the laws because I was practicing being a member of good standings in my community. That's why I'm prepared to be a member of good standings in my community.
Yes, sir.
We had the practice in there. So March 26, 2020, we were able to call out 17 gang leaders, impact players, in Shirley Medium. Brother Ostacks was a coordinating facilitator of that process, an impact player in his own right, in his own hood. Those 17 leaders across gangs, across the state, said that we, by general consensus, said that we would make that prison a smoke-free zone. So smoke-free zones will marry on to know your smoke.
Yes,
so
sir.
it's about adding on and multiplying.
Yes, sir.
Again, working while black. Is it a crime? Yes, it is. Peace.
Peace, peace. Thank you. Man, so much there. So much there. Let's give our brother hands. So real quick, as time is of the essence, I wanna highlight at least 2 more examples, and I wanna open up the floor for the audience to ask questions. But man, there's three examples that we need to get into briefly, right? Yes. So the three examples that I want to get into before I get the rest of the panel in is Brother Sean, right? You had to fight and file legislation to get the NGE, right, to be recognized by the DOC. The NGE is the Nation of Gods and Earth, also known as the 5 Percenters, which you see Brother Supreme is an adherent of, proud member of, and you see his brilliant mind. Brother Sean was traveling in that cipher. But the DOC, matter of fact, part of the reason why I came into the DOC was because one of our brothers, Rockborn Allah, who was in the Nation of Islam, was classified as a 5 Percenter and was deemed a security threat. The 5 Percenters were a security threat group in the prisons. And Brother Sean led legislation. So Brother Sean, if you could briefly just talk about your experience with having to fight to get a cultural organization to be acknowledged. And by the way, the NGE now today is in fact recognized by the DOC. But this brother was leading some of the fight to make that happen. Can you speak toward that?
I'll be quick, Brother Minister. I was at Shirley Mack, and the cell was shaking down, and the SEALs found some papers, some lessons in the cell that I was being housed in. Some papers, right? I'm gonna give you the first question, right? Because there was my lesson. The first question was, who was the original man? Okay? We're talking about some papers that was found in my cell, right? And eventually had me labeled as a gang member within the DOC, right? My lessons, right? Lessons studied by the Nation of God and Earth, studied by the Nation of Islam, right? Is about self. So essentially, I was labeled as a gang member because I was trying to educate myself about me. Okay? When I was labeled, like the history was, right? People, when you're labeled when you get the STG label, right? A lot of times you gotta denounce, like, your likelihood of you going to the hole is greater, you become targeted, it's a whole, and we don't have time to get into it, right? But my point is that I asked the DOC, all right, well, since you're saying that this is a security threat group, right? Learn about it. Let me educate you about it. Let me educate you about it, right? So that you can see how innocent it is, right? No. I had to file a grievance. I had to deal with the gang people downtown. Like, it was just a bunch of nonsense just because I wanted to learn about myself. So, and when you hear about the thing, right? What programs were you involved in, and how you retaliated against, or what support did you get, right? And we look at our community and we wonder why people are coming home the way they are, right? Look at how they're being treated in there. I don't want to deviate, but yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So I want to go to our next panel, or our panelist who's on the Zoom, Latoya Whiteside, as an attorney with the Prison Legal Services, right? As an advocate, you speak towards some of the reports that you received with regards to discrimination in corrections. What were some of the reports that you received that you had to deal with, and what are some examples of actual cases that you work with around this particular topic?
Before I go into the specifics, if I could just point out, I think something foundational that we should all recognize, and I think it also speaks to what the gentleman early on in the panel mentioned about the lack of available programming, and also what Diamond mentioned about the fact that we continue to have these meetings, and it's really a lot of circular reasoning. And I think the biggest issue and biggest cause of that is because a lot of what we're sharing today is anecdotal information. We're great, I think, just as a culture, we're storytellers. We're very accustomed to being on the front lines and fighting the fight from a grassroots level, but we have to start thinking about this systemically. We have to start thinking in fighting in their language. We need to start going to our legislators. We need to start actually looking at the numbers. And the biggest problem, not only in the state of Massachusetts, but nationally, is that no Department of Corrections, no correctional facility or institution is mandated to aggregate race data. So where that leaves us is a lot of stories being told about our experiences and no black and white numbers. Black and white numbers is what gets the funding. Black and white numbers is what gets the action and the movement. And we're gonna keep having these meetings and continue to have these conversations about the struggles of our brothers and sisters on the inside until we start showing proof and start embarrassing some of these legislators and embarrassing these states about what's happening from behind the wall. Right now, the Department of Correction mandates, one is not mandated to collect racial demographics. So the only information that we have accessible is we have population trends, and that's even skewed because they're counting a lot of our Hispanic brothers and sisters as white Hispanic. So those numbers are accurate. They collect crime trends, population trends, and just very little information about solitary confinement. So we have no idea what programs are actually available for black and brown prisoners and how are they benefiting from those programs. We don't know any of the outcomes of access to institutional employment. We don't know outcomes to disciplinary proceedings other than just how many Black and brown brothers are actually in solitary. We don't know why they're ending up there. We don't know the outcomes of disciplinary proceedings. We don't even have the numbers for medical, and we've seen that with COVID. So the first thing we need to do is start pushing for the collection of this data, centralized data, and also incorporating an enforcement mechanisms so DLC is actually being held accountable for this data not being collected. And then we can talk about, the individualized efforts that we're doing and the individualized programs that we're trying to put together from the ground up. But I think right now the biggest issue that I would ask everyone to do is contact your legislators. Right now, REICI, we have a data bill that's currently in the Judiciary Committee and in Public Safety. And that, if that bill passes, it'll be the first of its kind in the nation, and it would mandate the Department of Corrections to actually collect race data. And not only that, it would also audit the Department of Corrections to start addressing structural racism and the desperate impacts of that against Black and brown prisoners. So I would encourage everyone to, I believe the individuals are, Ariana and someone else is actually sharing that information. And one can also share that information with you, detailing more about the specific legislation. But please, if you are interested at all in true prison reform and the impact that this has on our Black and brown brothers and sisters from behind the wall, please contact your legislators. Start there. Let them know how important this bill is, and that's what we need to be focusing on. And then we can talk about the grassroots efforts.
Thank you. We're let's give her a warm round of applause. We running down on time. Time is of the essence. So I do want to take a couple of questions from the audience before we wrap up. So are there any questions from the audience to our panel? Yes. Brett, can you come up? Someone give him a mic.
Thank you for what you guys do. I really appreciate it. I used to work in the DYS system, and they used to have clinicians who would be the advocate of the incarcerated youth. I was just curious if they had something like that, or if we could politically advocate for something like that for people of adults, so that those unjust things happening in the prison could be at least documented.
I don't know if you want to speak to this, Tim, but I'll speak to this, right? That there's mental health in staff in prison, right? But I would never, ever in my life talk to a staff member that works in that's DOT staff mental health. I would never, ever do that. Ever, right? Not because I think it's bad. Like, people need somebody to talk to, right? But for me, to talk to them people, right? And then to have that staff person go out and talk to some CEO about your trauma and what you're dealing with, like, in order to have effective, right, therapy, right? You gotta be able to trust the person, right? But how can you trust somebody that's working for someone that's incarcerated? So that's why I say me.
Let me clarify, because even though they're working for the department, it's documented, the things because they have to actually write down what transpired with the youth, whether right or wrong. So at least if there was someone there
right. But the thing is, if you go in and you tell them, yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, right? That brings on a reprimand, right? If you're really having a crisis moment, you say you want to hurt yourself, right? Their response is to put you in a box, and it might not be the whole hole, but you're in a cell with nothing. So you're treated less humane than
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
Very quick, Brother Wilbur, thank you. I think one of the things that we're doing is building a loving relationship And in that working relationship, we want to know who's amongst us. We want to know the talents that's amongst us. So I'm at the fledgling stages of right now bringing together a pool of black and brown folks who are mental health specialists, who have their degrees in psychology, so on and so forth. And we're looking to redefine what mental health looks like, made after our own image and likeness. So really quick, my last stop was at Concord Farm, and I called the Healing Circle to deal with brothers who were impact players in the street. And I was utterly blown away that in that first circle, it usually takes about 12 or 24 to get to this point, brothers made the connection with their mental health. So being that we're on analog time behind the walls on the Massachusetts Department of Correction, we coined a hashtag we do mental health differently. And what we know that our mental health primarily and principally is the ability to come in a circle of care with people that we know love us and people that we know we can trust. So I like to get anybody's information who is in that field in any way, because we're going to build out a focus group, then move to a working group and get this nailed down.
Thank you. Real quick, and we wind it down, so let's keep our responses to a minute or less. I think Daryl wanted to chime in on that. Daryl Jones wanted to chime in on that, so come on in, D. Put it up. Hold on, D. They got to put the mic on you. Hold on. All right, go ahead, bro.
We are not entertainers, right? When we act like entertainers, it's the reason that those seats are empty, because we have the appearance of entertainment. So when they come to see us, they say they heard.
We lost the sound.
Your mic got muted, D.
Peace. I
Go ahead.
want to just make this real simple. This is my end quote, right? We're not entertainers. Somebody has the impression that we're entertainers. Everybody has a little limelight, wants a little limelight. We're not entertainers, yo. That's why those chairs are empty. Because when something's affecting people's lives, is right now if you people were hungry and you said you had food, it'd be filled, right? Because there's food. If we were offering food at this table, meaning what we have, what we know we can do better, we become presenters. I love my brother M. If I died today, the only one I'm telling you, as far as my works, I'll ever allow to speak on him. Anything else will probably be a lie or an exaggeration or a don't know, right? That's a fact. But I know their talents individually. I know Sean's, I know his. I worked with him way longer than anybody out here ever touched with him, ever saw him, ever talked with him, ever. I know them, so I know what they can achieve. I know what we can achieve. And when I don't see us achieving it, I know why too. So when you tell them about the things I've done, let me give it to you real simple. What I really did, what I thought, what I never shared. I'll share it with you guys today because you're there. This is how I was thinking in there. We were in that box, right? And me and M know this because I would share this only with M. We were in that box. And I kept saying, we don't got no microphone. Just like this country works now, whoever got the mic is going to communicate it. We didn't have a microphone. So my thing was taking risks and saying, I'm going to get locked up or whatever, because sooner or later the news is going to come and they're going to come in. Once we got that microphone, be prepared. Now we're out here, we get the microphone off, and I've seen everybody on many videos and everything else, and I still see you there. No man's a prophet in his own land. It's why I talk about the churches, why I talk about anything. I want our elders to understand something. God gave me this. He didn't give me a communication thing. These tools are not mine. He gave them to me. And what I'm telling you is it's like the church. Anywhere else in the world, if you got sick right now, and this is important, minister, this is actually probably my last statement to Boston. I can't always talk in the same place. I know what I've said. I know what God told me to say, and I know why I'm doing it. You understand? I know that in this time space that we're in right here, our elders, if you went to church, please listen to me. I've been speaking at some churches. Listen to me. If your pastor, anybody been talking to you for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, then you think about the hospital. When you go to the hospital and the day your insurance, they call that hospital, tell the insurance company you're well, they say they're well. They're not gonna let the minister stay in there an extra day and pay for it for you to watch Netflix or nothing else. You're coming out of that hospital because your insurance is out of that deal. Here's what I'm saying for us. The church is a hospital for sinners. Why we never get well? Why did my grandmother die in the church? I thought the whole purpose of it was to get us ready and then you go out. I don't understand that. So when I see all my elders still there and I see the world falling apart, I go, yo, some pastor lied to them because it's a hospital for sinners. And that means you're supposed to get well at some point and get out. Why people never get out? That's point one. So spiritually, I had to recognize that. Point two is we got to win concrete improvement in people's lives. I'm going to give you concrete, everything you mentioned. Here's what I walked away with that probably nobody paid attention to. Every time they hit me, I hit back. So when you talk about that Harold case, what most people don't know, if you go Google and do your homework and pay attention, yeah, they hit me, they put me in a hole, they made up a big story, they faked it, they used Gloria Fox. And Gloria herself would tell you, she said, I don't want nothing else to do with that. And I said, we're going to sue them. I'm going to sue them. None of this is true. Gloria chose not to. She can tell you that herself. We ain't going to get into all of it, but I got every transcript. I think I'm sitting on the story. Everybody had to.
You muted again. We lost your mic. It's 4 o'clock. We do.
All right, here's the principal point. Here's the principal point. What's the delivery? Here's my delivery. They bust at me, they locked me up, they did all that stuff, but guess what? I was able to provide for my family. Unknowns to you, I walked away with $1.5 million, and the Herald spent $3 million to fight me, and the Channel 7 spent another couple million, and I still won, and we walked away with millions. So yeah, me and my wife at that time, we suffered what you saw. But there was a home bought and a whole bunch of stuff. I just ain't a flashy dude, right? We lived off of that. Then after that, when you talk about the videos we made and all that, them videos are sitting in Boston. They were curriculums. They were all that. I've been places you won't even imagine with those videos. I got something going on with those videos you wouldn't even imagine. All of that work, I never suffered through that work. I always got rewarded. What you don't understand. All of those things we're supposed to be doing, all we need to know in this community, and I'm taking note of this stuff we said today, is where the problem is at, what do we gain if we win, and what are the risks if we take it, and what power do we have over the target? And we got a lot of power over the target. Here's one I'm gonna leave you with. You wanna get some money right now? Here's one for my community, and I keep saying it to you. If you take Sean right now, if you take me right now, and that community would stand up and go to these legislators and say, you put the wrong men in prison. That costs my tax money. Everybody's tax. We paid for years and years for them to be in there. You ain't looking for nobody new. We're going to need that money back. Stop putting your money back in your pocket. My son died with Adidas on. Every dude out here fight about Adidas. And we ain't never seen Adidas sponsor none of y'all. We need to take all those pictures of our kids dead in their Adidas and these brands we've been supporting since the 80s and then tell them, when are you going to support us, and add up that money? That's data. Look at how we live.
Yes, sir.
We living like yesterday. I want to participate. I want to participate with Eminem and doing what they know how to do, what Sean know how to do, what Supreme pointed out. We all individually know our talents, man. We all know that. There's no secret there. If I'm going to get into this law thing, one time I'm good with it, and right now I'm going to go back to M. Probably, I don't want to say before my lawyers, but I'm going to go, me and him going to do that. I'm going to go there. I'm going to put my life on the line with that, or myself. You understand that? If I want to be more humble, I might grab Sean. People have different personalities. We knew that, but we always accomplish it. It's a disrespect to Mel. It's a disrespect to Chuck. And you know what it's going to be a disrespect to? One day, Minister Dawn. Because Minister Dawn came in that prison and told us something, gave us a mission, told us what to do. And all we're going to do is leave a monument for all these legends of ours. And when we're going to become living monuments. And you know what's beautiful never dies, bro? People don't know. I didn't just talk to those mothers. Went and got every artist in this community, even out of this country, and made 2 albums in prison. Sitting on the United Nations Award. I always won. And you'll always win if we do something and stop talking.
Yes, sir. Yes. 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 I don't know a better note to end on than that. It's a little bit over 4, and we're scheduled to go to 4. Thank you. Let's give our panel another warm round of applause. As we said, y'all can stay right there though. As D said and as M said earlier, it's not over, right? This was just a symposium. We have work to do. So we need you to stay tapped in. Look out for the next event. Look out for the next action item. There's bills at the State House right now. One of the things of the Million Man March was organize, organize, organize. So you have to be a part of organization. You got to stay tapped in. as we move forward. If you was moved by the information that you heard today, then you gotta tap in. Yes.
I just want to say, before we get out of here, is that as a community, I think one of the things that we have is various different ways of seeing things, right? But we're all trying to move towards the same goal. You can't do nothing without organizing. I don't care who you are, what your idea is, none of that. It all comes back to these simple building steps. You have to build the message, right? And you can't get people to come out to vote. You can't get people to actually go out and call their legislators without conducting these types of forums, right? So we gotta also align the truth where it's at, right? And not get lost in the individuality of what we think and we see in the moment as our own individual purposes. This is talking about a collective purpose, right? You ain't gonna do nothing with just a group of, I think W. Du Bois proved that with his talented 10. That theory did not work, right? All right, so we have to look at how we form our community, right? And how we build from this premise. And that's why I want you to understand, we need these forums to build, right? We need a collective stance. Thank you.
So we closing out. We opened up with prayer, and we're gonna close with prayer. This is the holy day of atonement. Y'all all right? All right, all right, all right. And so yes, Brother M, I thank you for reiterating those words. It is important that we come together. Let me tell you something. Sometimes we talk about going to the meetings and things like that, but guess what? The enemy meets all the time. Hello, somebody talk back to me. You don't think the enemy meets? You don't think they sit down and strategize and plan how to rule us? They meet all the time. So we also got to come together and meet. And we can't get tired of a meeting because it ain't going to be a one and done. That's part of the problem sometimes. We think it's going to be a silver bullet. It's going to be quick. I'm going to come to the meeting and I done solved the criminal justice problem. It don't work that way. You got to be committed to a process over a protracted period of time, and we got to build years, months, and days of being committed to the work, and this is what we're doing, so let us continue that. Let us close out with prayer. In the name of the one true and living God, to whom all holy praises are forever due, revealer of all truth, sender of all prophets, we beseech your aid, we ask for your mercy, for we believe in you and trust in you for all that we need. Surely we're helpers in your cause, with all of your prophets and apostles. Thank you for this day. Thank you for those that showed up. Thank you for the Million Man March 28 years ago. Please, don't allow us to forget the spirit of the Million Man March. Let us be true to that spirit and that work. And let us continue in this day, in the same spirit, to continue to fight that fight. We thank you for everyone that showed up. We thank you for the information that was shared. We pray that you bless everyone that came with safe travels back to their abode. And we ask you this in the name of all of your prophets, from Abraham to Muhammad. Let us all say amen. Amen. Thank you. Amen.
Okay, I will.
Make sure you clean up around your tables. Any trash that you see.
Brother, see you soon, brother. Yes, sir. Thank you. All right, thank you. How you doing, brother? Good. See you once again. Edward, okay, good. Yes, all right, thank you.